I was recently chatting with a patron of Toehold and we were figuring out what he was doing with Lightroom. I realized he had just started processing and his MacBook Pro crashed. So he got a new laptop or rather he installed a new operating system and the system was up and running in no time. But he also had a lot of copies of his raw files in an external hard disk. But the problem was he could never recover the Lightroom catalogs and he had to redo all the processing he had done in the past. So is there a way we can manage, and what do I do to make sure I protect all my catalog files, all the work I've done on the Lightroom catalog so that I never lose them ever in my life? Hey everybody, this is Jayant Sharma. I'm going to take you through my workflow and my process and my setup of how I make sure I keep a backup of all my catalogs in such a way that all the hard work I do, not just on the field, but also on the computer, the long hours I spend to process images, how I can make sure the processing is never lost. So before I do that, I would urge you to subscribe to this channel, which is the Toehold TV, and you can also hit the bell icon so that you can get notifications. First things first, let's make sure you are a photographer who keeps multiple backups of your raw files. For instance, if you travel to an exotic place and you come back, you want to make sure the raw files are not just in one place, like your laptop or let's say MacBook Pro or your notepad, so that when an unforeseen circumstances, something happens and your MacBook Pro or your laptop crashes, you don't lose all the files. So the first lesson as a photographer is to keep multiple copies of your raw files. I'm sure if you're a well-traveled photographer, you already know this is a tip you need to actually practice and not just hear. So I learned it the hard way. In 2007, my hard disk fell down and it crashed and I had no copies of my raw files. So it was a very, very big price I paid for a careless mistake of mine. And since the last 12, 13 years, I've made sure every picture I shot is copied to a backup hard disk apart from my main place. I in fact use something called a network attached storage. I keep all my raw files there. I have a Thunderbolt hard disk which I connect to when I'm working. And now when I'm on a travel, I would like to use external portable hard disks like the one on this desk right now to keep copies. Let's say today is a field day, I've gone and taken pictures, I make sure the copies are on my hard disk as well. If I have space on my laptop or the MacBook Pro, it's here as well, but otherwise it's also in another copy on another hard disk. Let's come to Lightroom's instance, for example. Let's say I have processed my photos over time and suddenly my MacBook crashes. I have to reinstall the operating system or I have to reinstall Lightroom, which is fine. You'll always be able to do that. But I also have backups of the raw files, so I won't even lose the raw files. But think about what happens to your Lightroom catalog. If you understand the architecture of Lightroom, every photo that you import into Lightroom actually is passing through Lightroom and the raw file is sitting in your hard disk, but Lightroom has a pointer to that hard disk. Now, if you understand, Lightroom never stores a file, right? It just points you to that hard disk. Now, you start working on Lightroom. Like in this case, I have opened my 2018 Svalbard catalog and I might do some changes. I might open a polar bear photo here, I might edit it and make some changes and store it and shut down my machine and go back and come back the next day. But let's say my MacBook crashed. That is what is the problem we are discussing right now. Let's say my MacBook or your Windows laptop or your Linux system or something crashed. What do you do to the already spent hours of hard work that you put into this catalog and worked on these raw files? In that case, what my colleague recently did was he had to re-import all the files and edit them again so that he would have these files processed. So let's understand what do I do to make sure I never ever lose my processing in the sense I keep a copy of my processing and my catalogs and everything like that. So let's first understand the folder structure of Lightroom. So I'll take you to my desktop. I have a place called LR Cats. This is the folder, LR Catalogs, for instance. This is where I store all the catalogs of my expeditions. For instance, when I go back to Lightroom, you'll notice when I mouse over and say recent files, you'll notice I am a photographer who uses one catalog for one trip. So there is the Svalbard 15, Adobe Seminar, December Kenya, Botswana, and so forth. So I use one catalog for one expedition or tour or trip for that matter. So this is my 2018 Svalbard catalog, and I have some lovely images here. I processed them and I've also posted some images, and this is one of the most interesting pictures I got. So this is something which I've worked on, I've spent a lot of time, I've processed. So let's go back to my desktop and understand what happens to Lightroom's catalog. So since this was 2018, this is sitting in the 2018 folder, and inside which there is Svalbard 2018 catalog. In fact, this is what I've opened in Lightroom right now. So let me go back to Lightroom, and in Lightroom, if I right click and say show in Finder, Lightroom is going to point my file to the hard disk where it is sitting. Right now you can see a blue hard disk on my desk. So this is nothing but the blue hard disk. In that I have the Svalbard 18, August 7th, and this is the raw file, and that is where is the file sitting in my laptop, or rather the hard disk. Now when I come back to Lightroom, where is all this information of my stored files going? That is something which is very important to know. So it is sitting in the Lightroom catalog. We go back to Lightroom catalog 2018, inside that Svalbard 2018, and this is the file where I have all the metadata information sitting. I have some previews here, I have some smart previews here. That is another topic of discussion. Now when my hard disk crashes, this file might be lost. So what do I do to make sure I never lose this file? So I need to introduce this concept of cloud for this particular video. So what is cloud? You might have heard of iCloud if you're a Mac user. You might have heard of Google Cloud, Amazon Cloud, and all of this. What does a cloud mean? Cloud means, by the way, I use something called as Microsoft OneDrive. So I'm a legitimate user of Microsoft Office, because of which I get 1 terabyte space on the cloud absolutely free because of my Microsoft Home and Office edition. So what I do is I'll take you to my OneDrive folder. So if you understand, OneDrive is a folder on my computer, and when I click on it, you'll see what is inside that. So the theory is this: you'll have a folder on your computer which is syncing with the cloud. What it simply means is when you put a file inside this folder on this computer, it automatically syncs to the cloud server and it makes a copy of this file on the cloud, which means I have a software installed. By the way, this is my Microsoft OneDrive. Now, right now, as we speak, you can see it is uploading a video called Patagonia. It is uploading an Illustrator file that I worked on recently. It's uploading some more files. Depending on my internet speed, this might take a few minutes or it could take a few hours if the file size is very high. For instance, this is a huge video of 932 MB. It might take a few hours in my home internet speed, or let's say in my office internet speed. Now, coming back to the theory of cloud, when I paste any file inside this folder called the OneDrive, the idea is every file here is supposed to get uploaded without a human being's intervention. This is automatic. It gets uploaded automatically. So without me doing anything, you will get this file to the cloud. So you can see a lot of these green tick marks on these folders. What a green tick mark means, it is simply trying to upload files to the cloud. So let's do a quick experiment. Now I'll take this Puma for print photograph which is on my desktop. I'll copy it and I'll paste it in my cloud folder, which is OneDrive. You'll notice this has a blue arrow and which is suggesting that it's not yet syncing with the cloud, which means in a few minutes this will go to the queue and I'll start getting that here as it uploads to the server. This is the logic of using a cloud software. Now, why am I talking about this when I talk about Lightroom? If you understand, my Lightroom catalog itself is in my OneDrive, which is my cloud software. So let me find where that is. I would have marked it in yellow. So this is the folder called LR catalogs. That is what is being shortcut created here. So when I create a new catalog, I created inside this LR catalogs folder, inside which it is 2018, and now you can see that the rest of them are all green. Some of them are trying to sync to my cloud server. Now 2018, the Svalbard is the only folder which is not green, which means right now I have made some changes in my catalog here, and my cloud a software which is Microsoft OneDrive is trying to send this to the cloud. In fact, the catalog is synced, but there are some previews which are not yet synced. Now, if I make any change to this file, let's say I open this file and I crop, just for the sake of this video, I crop this, you will notice that I have made some change, and when I go back, this particular file which was green right now has a modification, has something which has changed, and it will start uploading in a few seconds. Right now it has not yet noticed. Now there is a change in my catalog and it will start uploading this file to the server. So in my case, as I start working on Lightroom, by the way, now let's say I close my Lightroom, it starts uploading this, because now the session has ended, it starts uploading this file to the cloud. And tomorrow I just need to open a new laptop and I sign into my Microsoft OneDrive, and it will download all the files in the cloud if I select what folders need to be syncing with my local computer. And that way, what is on my local computer is uploaded to the cloud, and I always have a backup of it. We are very meticulous in keeping copies of the raw files, but if you follow my method, you will never lose your catalog files as well. In fact, all the catalog files are also getting uploaded. Apart from that, you also get your preview files and everything else, and it starts syncing. So that is how it works. Now I'm going to close Lightroom just to see. I'll select skip this time. I don't want to back up now. Now, if I close Lightroom, it is going to take a few seconds because it is writing some information which I worked on in this catalog right now. So now that I've closed Lightroom, and this file, which is the Svalbard 2018 LRCAT, has got uploaded to the cloud, and I can access it from anywhere. I can in fact open another laptop and sync to the cloud, and I'll get this catalog back. And this is how I will never lose my post-processing done on the Lightroom catalogs. Apart from storing raw files in multiple places, I also make sure my catalog is on my local computer and also on the cloud. Tomorrow, if I lose my local computer, or I reformat it, or I buy a new machine, all I need to do is come and sign into Microsoft OneDrive in my case. It could be iCloud in your case, Google Drive in your case, and all the files which are in the server will sync if you have enabled it for syncing. That is what I do to make sure I never lose my post-processing done on the catalogs.